I've been getting a lot of requests to talk about media coverage of the Steubenville rape case. And this is the case in which two high school football players were found guilty of raping a 16-year-old girl. This was a controversial trial in Steubenville, Ohio. The verdict was handed down on Sunday. Let's first just get a little bit of video of the verdict, and then we'll talk about the media coverage, which I've been really thinking about for a while because I didn't want to jump the gun on an analysis in either direction on the media coverage before I had a chance to review more video, which I've now done. Let's first look at the reading of the decision on the verdict from the judge.
In this case, regarding the charges of rape, both defendants, Malik Richmond and Trenton Mays, are committed to the Department of Youth Services for a minimum period of 1 year, a maximum period till you're 21.
Okay, so there was the reading of the verdict. So the controversy started around the media coverage of this event. And what were the complaints? There was basically one theme around the media coverage, which was all mainstream media outlets that covered this did not really take seriously the consequences to the victim and were just focused on how sad it was that the defendants were now going to miss out on potentially playing football really well, so on and so forth. The other complaint, and we'll get into all of these, is that CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC aired the name of the rape victim. And that is true. They aired a bit of video where one of the guilty individuals said in an apology the name of the victim, and that was aired. And we're not going to, even though we could also repeat that name and repeat what was said, we're not going to do that. Just suffice it to say that all three networks did that, Lewis.
Right.
So let's talk about the allegations that news channels were focusing on the effect that this would have on the rapists. In other words, the sadness of them now having to spend 1 and 2 years, respectively, in this juvenile detention facility, as opposed to talking about the victim. At the center of this is the following clip from CNN's Candy Crowley. Take a look.
I've never experienced anything like it, Candy. It was incredibly emotional, incredibly difficult even for an outsider like me to watch what happened as these two young men that had such promising futures, star football players, very good students, literally watched as they believed their life fell apart. One of the young men, Malik Richmond, when that sentence came down, he collapsed. He collapsed in the arms of his attorney, Walter Madison. He said to him, "My life is over. No one is going to want me now." Very serious crime here.
Okay, so I'll stop it there. This clip goes on for close to 6 minutes, and I watched the entire thing twice, and the focus is, as the allegation states, on the effect on the victims. Other allegations, that NBC News lamented the rapist's promising football careers, that ABC News made excuses for the rapist, and that USA Today focused on the victim being drunk. Now, initially, my reaction was, you know what? Why are we focusing on that? Because these are the perpetrators, and they will now be punished, and the victim is not really being discussed here. But then I said, you know what? I'm going to look for more information before I really kind of hand down what I think is my my opinion on this. And I found video on CNN of the lawyer of the victim speaking, and the lawyer of the victim in the case expressed the same type of sympathy that did a lot of the news networks. So let's take a look at that video if we can. Let's see if we can get that started, Lewis. Here we go.
Significant. It was a very emotionally packed moment that occurred in that courtroom where watching this young boy suffer, once he realized what the punishment and what had happened at that point, it was hard to watch anybody suffer, a human being like that. And I think everybody in that courtroom was significantly moved. And it was those emotions that moved everybody there. Not that that was right or acceptable or forgiving at that point, but to see the pain that he had caused himself and others.
All right, that's good. So let's talk about that, because as you see here, the attorney for the victim in this case talking about the pain that was apparent on the faces of the perpetrators and how difficult a moment it was. So then I started thinking, well, maybe we have to look at this a little bit differently. Broadly speaking, in this country, we do have a problem with the blame the victim mentality when it comes to rape. That being said, it's okay it has to be okay to talk about the detrimental effect that this has on everybody involved. And I don't know that it was as outrageous as some are saying the way this was handled. Now, that being said, Louis, when we see CNN focus on the sad nature of what happens to the rapists, it does raise red flags.
It does. Okay, you know what? If when that verdict was called, there was this incredibly sad aura in the courtroom, that's fine to talk about that. But listening to what that woman was talking to Candy Crowley about, she said when the kid collapsed into the arms of his attorney, he said, "No one's going to want me anymore."
Let's be clear.
Okay, that's pretty selfish. Okay,
Yes.
He's crying because his future is messed up.
Right.
I don't really think he cares about the future of the victim, which could be way more messed up.
All perfectly fair points. So I think the bottom line on this is that we really need to focus here on the victim, and we also need to focus on why are the rapes happening. Nobody should be indicating that this was a case where if the girl was drunk, that all of a sudden that changes the situation, that it makes rape okay. And I agree with absolutely every single one of those things. And I agree that the coverage was not focused properly. I am just not at the same level of outrage that some people are. Natan, what do you think?
I just think that the sort of focus on the defendants, if there's any logic to it, it has to do with the fact that they're minors. And if these kids were over 18, maybe you wouldn't have seen the same level of coverage of this type. I mean,
No
obviously,
question.
the sadness of it from their point of view, from the media's point of view, comes not only from the reaction they had in the courtroom, but the idea that, which is true, which is that, maybe they were doing things that they thought were okay. Now, we can debate.
I disagree completely.
We can debate.
Yeah.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying just based on that reaction. But what I'm saying is I'm not defending them in any way.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that the coverage was off. So in that sense, I disagree with both of you. But what I am saying is that the fact that they're minors does add a level of tragedy from the defendant's point of view, in the sense that this is really a city and region issue with small towns that have the good old boy mentality. And that is as much to blame for this as those kids on an individual level.
No question about it. And really, I think the only thing we can really say in the end is the coverage was not good. The way that it was perceived is a direct result of that coverage. So if CNN is going to be criticized, they absolutely deserve it. And they should have been aware that this was going to be the reaction, because it is not an unfair reaction in any way. Let's just also consider that even the attorney for the victim felt some of the same feelings that were expressed on CNN. And that being said, we have such a problem with the mentality around rape in this country that it is truly sickening.
I think the coverage was terrible. I think they completely dropped the ball. I feel no sympathy for two guys who raped a girl, and I think their sentences should be way stricter. Way
I agree.
harsher.
I don't think the sentences are strict enough.
Yeah.
But now they could be up until age 21.
I really doubt that's going to happen.
It probably will not happen.